Hi, Blastpop here. Today I'm looking at the order matrix for Fighting Formations Grossdeutschland Division by GMT Games, designed by Chad Jensen. Somebody had requested from me some time ago that I include an explanation of how the order matrix is used. Now, I haven't considered that. There's a little bit more to it than just the simple manipulation of it, but it also has an impact on how it is used on the playing field. So what I have included here is I've included a sample of the setup for the first scenario as far as the order matrix is concerned. This here is a hypothetical setup for the purpose of illustration what goes on the game board with respect to how it interacts with the order matrix. Now in this scenario, that the scenario 0 they call it, the initiative starts on the Soviet side of the 0 track, which is right here. Okay. Now, with that in mind, the Soviet gets to go first. So this track is composed of 10 particular orders that can be used by both sides. They're similar, they have all the same orders, but the specific method in which the points are allocated to them are different. So in other words, the Germans' fire and movement is different as opposed to the Soviet fire movement. They're available, but they just flip-flop the values on them, representing nationality difference, doctrine, etc. And they do the same with the sniper and assault options as well for the Germans and the Soviets. So the Soviets get to go first. Now, what happens is the Soviet player will choose an action and move the display or the track towards the German side based on the value of any orders of an order they choose, along with any additional command costs to be able to do that on the map board. Now, you can play up to one asset in your hand for 1 point, which is a card. Fire and move, that's kind of self-explanatory. Rally your troops, assault, advance, and then it gives you all the specifics on the side here, what goes on. Sniper, battalion support, regimental support, and division support, which give you additional cards, which are essentially assets that you can, again, play later. These are fairly expensive, and cede to your opponent the number of points in their direction. So picking these up, they're expensive, and you want to be considered carefully, because if not done at the right time, your opponent can get several moves in a row. So as an example, the Soviet goes first, and he's going to move as an example. So he moves the track towards the German, 2 movement points, not 2 movement points, but 2 initiative points, 1, 2. So it goes to the 2 track. Now looking at the board, the Soviet decides, well, I am going to move this unit here. Now these round counters are command assets, and so you have a mission command and a tactical command. Now they're processed through a track, but essentially the most efficient use is the mission command, but that disappears to a tactical command in the following turn and disappear on the turn after that to become a not available command. So the Soviet has spent the 2 to move this, decided to move this unit, but it also costs him, because it's within range of his command, 1 additional point. So that goes to a 3. So Soviet moves this unit and does what he wants to do. So what he does also is, since he's moving, he'll put this over here to show it's no longer available to the German player. So the German player says, well, after seeing whatever move that the Soviet did say, he moved down to here. This stays in the hex that it was placed. So he decided to go there as by way of example. The German says, well, I am going to fire. So the German command to fire costs 3. Because although it costs 2, it's no longer available. So he selects that command, moves it forward 3, and then using his command marker here, the mission command, he fires at one or more of the Soviet units. But the cost is free. And actually, when you do activate a unit, you flip it from its non-stripe side to a stripe side to show that that unit is activated and uses the values that are contained on that side of the counter. Having done that, it doesn't cost any additional points to allocate these additional units because the mission command has an additional cost of 0. It costs 0 for a mission command, 1 additional per unit for tactical command, and 2 additional of the initiative if he has no command markers that can impact the units that you're choosing to activate. German fires these for whatever effect. It's irrelevant to the discussion here, and they get flipped back over. Now, it's back on the 0 track. Because the German holds the fake card, now this card is two-sided. You have a Soviet side, and you have the German side. It's the German side. The German gets to go again. Well, being dissatisfied with his firing, he decides that he is going to fire again. This time, he's using this one because it's equal to or greater than the cost of what it is he's trying to do, which is, in this case, he's firing again. So he fires, flips him over. So it costs the 4, which moves the track towards the Soviet on the 4 track there. And then it's the he does what he does, fires, and so on and so forth. Now it's the Soviet turn, and he decides, well, I really like to draw some assets because I don't like the situation on the board, and maybe I can have an impact. I am going to do the division support, which is going to move it 10 back towards the German, and he draws 3 cards, which is 3 assets. So it goes back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he draws his 3 cards, and play resumes to the German side. The German says, well, I still want to draw some, I want some assets too, so I'm going to spend 9 and put it back this way by 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's the Soviet gets a choice. Well, he decides that, he wants to play an asset, which basically is one of the cards in his hand. So he plays a card, irrelevant to the situation here again, but by way of example is just to show how it's done. So the Soviet will play an asset, move the marker 1 towards the German, still maintain his initiative, and it executes the usage of the card, and then he can go once again. He's going to fire again. So he decides to use this, goes forward 5 towards the German. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus this guy, these 2 guys, for our purpose of our example, are in command range of this marker. So it costs an additional 2. So the initiative is now 5 to the benefit of the Germans. So the Soviet executes his fire, whatever happens on the board. Now it's the German turn again. Well, he decides that, he's going firing. It goes back and forth several times until all of the red cubes on the order matrix have been used. The following turn, this is reseeded randomly, unlike how each scenario starts with a specific setup of cubes. Some scenarios that have a very, like our Germans are saying, an assault would have the track set up to impact how the opening turn would be. So essentially what you do is you roll 2d10. So the first one will be on move and advance. The next 2 markers are move and assault. One is division support, and another one goes to assault. one goes to regimental support and assault, and division support and assault. I'm using this side for calling it what it is based on the German side of the track, even though it differs. So you get a random effect every turn as to what's available to costs, with the varying opportunities and risks involved based on the vagaries of the dice. So that is basically how the track is used and how it interacts with the game state on the board. Now, a player could take a risk, pull a division support, or do something that allows him to move the pawn way down a track, as example, unrelated to this, trying to do a gutsy move or a bold move, and seeing how that impacts his opponent. He could play more conservatively, as example, and just move a couple points back and forth based on what's on the track in a limited fashion to gauge what his opponent's going to do and try to achieve his results. So there's some impact here of what you need to do versus trying to hold in abeyance as to what your opponent can do to you. So there's a bit of a guessing game here on the track here, trying to achieve your results with the available cube position on the order matrix. And so it's rather a game within itself, but after a turn or two, it becomes very intuitive and allows the player to concentrate on the strategy, what's going on the game board, instead of the order matrix. It's a very nice and actually quite simple procedure once you've grown accustomed to it. And I can see where, depending on various command points and allocations and ranges for your mission commands and tactical commands, you can achieve quite a few different levels of capability for the any given side, with some careful balance and game design, scenario design, I should say. Also, as a player, you have the option to expend some points and do nothing, to move the turn along, as an example. So, the game allows you enough tactical flexibility, I think, along with the ability, especially as a German, to be improvisational, at least at this point in the war, with his available forces, and nicely contrasts to that of the Soviet, of more of the lumbering beast. So it does give a nice feel for the Eastern Front over many different situations that the game includes. But I digress in terms of what we're trying to do here in explaining the order matrix. So that is the long and the short of the order matrix. I think I covered most of the bases, enough to get a player who wants to try this game out enough to understand it, that it's not anywhere near as complex as it might first appear to be. Anyway, please have your comments that you have, place them down below. Please like and subscribe. This has been Blastpop. Bye.